All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening. On behalf of Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center, I'd like to welcome you all to the Wanda Coleman Theater and to the LA book launch of In The Thaw of Day by Cynthia Good. Give it up for Cynthia. My name is Jimmy Vega. I'm the Associate Director of Beyond Baroque. I'd like to start by acknowledging Beyond Baroque's presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tonga peoples. We acknowledge the wrong done to these peoples through settler colonialism, genocidal practices, and the violent disposition of their land. As an arts organization, we are committed to uplifting Indigenous communities, their stories, and cultures. For those who don't know, Beyond Baroque is Los Angeles' oldest literary arts center, located here in Venice, California. Founded in 1968 by George Drury Smith, first as an experimental literary magazine, before reimagining itself and becoming the literary home we know it as today. We are based out of the original Venice City Hall and help support writers and help cultivate new writing through our extensive program of writing workshops, readings, and performances. We offer a number of workshops online via Zoom, such as our free weekly Monday night fiction workshop, facilitated by Raquel Baker, and our historic Wednesday night poetry workshop, currently facilitated by Arthur Kazakian. Similarly, we offer several paid in-person and online intensive workshops throughout the year. Tomorrow, we will in fact feature a special critique workshop with Dorianne Locks and Kim Adonisio. Yes, so if you're a part of that, we look forward to hosting you. We do only have a couple of slots left, so if you want to be one or maybe the second person, the final of that group, please do inquire in the bookstore. We also have a workshop slated in December with Timothy Steele on meter and versification. And excitingly enough, we just launched our very first manuscript lab with poet Sarah Ellen Fowler today, in fact. So the lab seeks 8 poets who are in the process of or are ready to begin the process of diving deep into the intricate work of diving into one's first manuscript and cultivating a community, a cohort who will not only work on their own first manuscript, but really get at the heart of what makes a phenomenal first book. By reading and being in conversation about first books in a small, intimate setting. So I do recommend that you check out our website to learn more. And aside from our workshops, we offer over 100 readings throughout the year in this theater. And currently in our Mike Kelly Gallery, we're exhibiting Anonymous Stellar Ravines, Volume 1 by Byron Baker and our poet in residence, Will Alexander. So all of this is only accomplished with your support, with the support of our community members. So if you are a Beyond Baroque member, we greatly thank you. And if you want to become a Beyond Baroque member, I do invite you all to talk to Genesis in the bookstore and inquire about memberships. Memberships to the space start at $60 for an individual membership, and it goes for the full year, and it really helps us to continue offering free programming like the one we have tonight. But besides all of that, big thank you to all of our staff, Quentin Ring, Yvonne Salinas, Eric Alberg in the booth, Genesis Perez in the bookstore. Please give them a round of applause. They've made tonight possible. And so we're gonna get started with our book launch here. We're super excited that all of you are here with us tonight. And to get us started, we will start with Michelle Bidding. Fourth generation Angelino, grew up in Los Angeles near the ocean. She studied theater, wrote poems, danced, played music as an undergraduate at UC Berkeley, and went on to study Meisner acting and perform as a modern dancer, including a 2-year workshop and filming stint with Twila Tharp for the James L. Brooks movie, I'll Do Anything. Michelle Bidding was shortlisted for the 2023 Craft Character Sketch Challenge, the 2020 Montreal International Poetry Prize, and a finalist for the 2021 Constant Prize, and 2020 Read Magazine Irwin Markham Prize. She's the author of 5 poetry collections, including Nightmares and Miracles, winner of the Wilder Prize, and recently named one of Kirkus's Review's 2022 Best of Indie. Her most recently published chapbook is Dummy Ventriloquist. Bidding holds an MFA in creative writing and a PhD in mythological studies, emphasis poetry and psychology. She is writing a novel that centers around Los Angeles and her great-grandmother, stage and screen actor Beryl Mercer, and is a senior lecturer in creative writing and literature at Loyola Marymount University. Please welcome Michelle Bidding.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's so great to be here celebrating Cynthia's book, and also to be reading with Dorianne Locks and Kim Adonisio, who are my first mentors. And so this is just chillingly fabulous, and yeah, it's very exciting and very kind of coming back around. So yay. I'm going to read 2 new poems, and then I'm going to read a couple poems from my little chapbook, my brand new chapbook, Dummy Ventriloquist, art by Emmett Abrams, our son. This is a new poem. It's a sonnet. It's called The Play. My daughter was 3 and refused to wear clothes. Naked on the living room floor, she'd demand another round of her favorite game, Pretty, Pretty Princess, then move the plastic rainbow markers about the board, however, wherever she pleased. Hair and legs wild, carefree, splayed. She hated to lose and broke what rules she had to while we laughed, astonished at such nerve. Years later, she became a he and did what he had to, moving the markers around wherever, however he needed, winning the crown himself in the end. Some rules are prettier broken. That's for Kim. Kim was there. Okay. This one's for Dorianne. Yet the loveliness. Once, Dorianne told me of the moment her mother finally admitted, apologized even, for the spotty passage of her childhood years, how often they proved a woods rife with wolves and teeth and trickery enough to make a girl want to gaze into the maw of an open oven and mistake that boundless dark for a candle. The loveliness I wanted would have cost my mother nothing. A thimble of breath, a wisp of floss, the sparrow plucks from the gutter and threads into her egg chamber behind my front porch lamp. Or the last thumb of indigo milk tugged from breast before my mother crunched those lovelies beyond the borders of her garments, their nickel hooks and eyes, her secret queendom, a language of the body she was not taught to teach or promote. Oh, fragile basket, we swing through thickets of time, combing the thorns for brighter berries we can crush against our chests like metals or gauze, staunching the grief, our yearn for honesty, for a true line on the tongue, how sweet the taste of even one. Thanks. You can wait till the end. It's okay. Thank you. So this is a little bit of a longer poem. I'm obsessed with the long tracking shot in film. I just love it, and there are many great examples in the canon of films, and of course, the original, or one of the originals, is the long tracking shot from Orson Welles' A Touch of Evil. So this. And I do this as an exercise with my students. So hi, students, I know you're out there watching. Where it's just, it doesn't stop. The piece doesn't stop, and it's like the long tracking shot. So I merged that with the sort of coming of age story. A Touch of Evil. There's an epigraph. If you want a happy ending, that depends, of course, on where you stop your story. Orson Welles. Why pretend its wicked fingertip hadn't already found me? That summer I was 12 and friendless between schools, lost in my awkward body and psyche, a war of worlds waged by gland and raging corpuscles, running dialogue between my leg and brain's jejuned tragedies. And why not join the community theater? Young talent aspiring to be seen, wannabe signed on as juvenile background for the ersatz San Juan Hill street scenes of West Side Story, even though, like the famous opening tracking shot in Orson Welles' late Noir Gem that goes on and on without edit, from the close-up of a ticking bomb tucked into the trunk of a 56 Chrysler convertible, to the moment 3 minutes later when the newlyweds kiss and the car goes up in flames just beyond a border checkpoint. Even though that was filmed in Venice, California, near the beach. Not in a Mexican town called Los Robles, out of which Chuck Heston emerges with faux black mustache, metal badge, bad accent, and last name Vargas. It's all a matter of illusion and suppression of people dying to be in America. And I, too, am an imposter from the west side of Los Angeles. And while I may be green, I know what it is to both bully and be bullied, the spiteful inner derangement that comes from that. So I figure I'll spend the summer where no one knows me and try to find a self while ogling grown-up actors who keep falling in and out of love and in and out of bed with each other from what I can gather at my invisible edge of the commissary cart and overheated wings of Barnum Hall, where the hopeful neophytes gather to swoon and hiss at each other like bust-open fire hydrants in a mid-city heat wave. That is, when they're not called to kick a leg up or empty their lungs of song on cue under the hot stage lights as the sun grows long in tooth, only to get yanked at the end of Doggy August, which is the nature of love, I'm gathering, while doing my best not to fall off a labyrinth of catwalks and rails I've been assigned to clamber and scale like a gangly little bug alongside union grips and gaffers, as I am but a casting dot in the play's human scenery, and so not called much to rehearse, but Michael the master fly man who makes the scenery soar and takes his job very seriously, while also maybe being a bad boy, I'm thinking. I'm not sure, but all those guys have tons of tats and pull up to the parking lot mornings a little worse for wear, red eyes, leathers, and Harleys, and no one will dispute the theater is a dangerous place with its web of intricate beams in the wizard dome overhead, but out of sight, where the magic strings get pulled, where suddenly the backdrop of a high school dance turns dress shop interior or vertiginous maze of windows, bricks, and fire escapes, thanks to the perfectly balanced systems of ropes, C-clamps, and pygmy weights, the dangling lanterns that weigh 50 pounds and will take your head off if they fall on you. But Mike, whose eyes match the butterfly blue of the SoCal Sea on a Venice postcard, ocean I grew up in, and also there's his wicked grin and billowing brown locks and a mustache that's a bit like Chuck Heston's in the flick I mentioned about murder and mayhem, which is how my insides feel most of the time. And maybe Mike senses this and knows what I need is some controlled burn, so to speak, a taste of managed danger, so I can better relate to the ticking clock inside, so it doesn't detonate all at once, or until I say, because I'm controlling this shot, and I'm the director of me, and I can stretch this out and continue to show up every day in my cheap, ill-fitting bell-bottoms and dumb floral tees from JCPenney's, ready to climb higher and higher, and one-handed even. Yes, I am clutching each rung for dear life under my sweaty, pubescent armpits, because they've tasked me with ferrying sustenance to the gaffers in the gallery, caddies of coffee and donuts from Winchell's, all the way up through the ropes and cables, the battens and pipes, the mid-travelers and fire curtain, up through the hellish swelter and moats that make me sneeze, and I have to stop and catch my breath sometimes and not look down or think about the rats in the massive deco walls, so that when I reach the top and give over the doughy and liquid goods, all I can do is roll my shaking fetal self onto the grid deck and fly tower summit, dizzy and more alive than ever, like I just grew a few inches or years. And Mike has a look of the devil about him. I mean, if my parents could see me, they'd have him arrested for child endangerment, I'm pretty sure. But I don't care, because I've let that girl go, dropped her down to doll, to dust, to ant on the boards 100 feet below. And I'm gasping a little when I hand Mike his styrofoam of brew and sticky maple twist. And when he peels the plastic white lid away and peers across the steam, sipping, his blue eyes slice through me, and I know I've done something holy. I could be in heaven, and then his head ticks to one side like a timer, and his smile clicks into place, and the silence around us explodes when he says, "You made it, kid, and look at that. Coffee's not just hot, it's on fire." Poem for the left behind. Once I stood like an actor in a nightmare, except I was awake, and nothing fell from my mouth but silence, but wagging shadow. The singed tongues of my brothers rolled out on gurneys, their grave eyes searching the house for a line, for a life, and finding too soon only soil. I lost both my brothers. This last poem is brand new. It's for our son, who went through quite an ordeal last year. Ode to my son's birthmark. Stork bite, angel kiss, salmon patch of blush epidermis, pink palm print pressed to the back of your head and hidden until you merged with the light outside my insides. Summer flooding the hospital room in the city of St. Monica. Patron of mothers and famous for cheering son Augustine along his fraught, illustrious path. And isn't the world just like that? Mothers versus death since forever, as we followed it in history books and life. And certainly, since you arrived on this planet so breathtakingly artful in its design on evils and delights, on miracles and mayhem, and shame on us and on me for getting your skull cap's masterpiece, the field of Rorschach strawberry, where I'd plant my lips so often, letting your follicle fragrance fill me. A grace-given thing, this infant essence, fecund and flesh-scented, the bread of stars if they could exhale like animals, like the breath of heaven really, then the unseen illness, the taking of pictures, the requisite shearing of locks grown long in your young adulthood. I saw it, the good friends flying in with their weed and spirits, their laughter and raucous playlists, the ceremony of love your goofy lot performed, first braiding, then snipping, then shaving your head to its nubby minimum so the chemo could not get there first. That fucking devil we bless and curse as it snaked its orange burn around your body in the coming weeks and months, and how the shearing brought the mark into view, the rouge kiss of a long-lost lover peeking through your homemade beanie knit by a family friend from the church we don't visit anymore, not even on holidays, or to pray in pews under stained glass. those ocular openings in the neo-Gothic veins since medieval Chartres, where divinity streams through. Oh, you brave and worthy knight, your body a cathedral, your bones holy relics, humming the hymns of coming health. And weren't we the ones back when, always first to the healing rail? Our heads bowed to receive the woo-woo spirit, where most were too proud or embarrassed to kneel or believe. But we knew that the things worth knowing are not the things we know. And when God is gone, it means church is everywhere, and water might turn to wine and stones to gold. And the greatest moment in the service was when everything stopped and the veil of words dropped, like a curtain of hair falling, and the people turned to touch each other, saying, "Peace be with you, and also with you." Their trembling hands, a little like newborn roses, opening to morning after the shadow of night has passed. Thank you.
Michelle Bidding, folks, give it up. Make some noise. Thank you, Michelle. Oh. All right, up next, we have Dorianne Locks, whose sixth collection, Only as the Day is Long, New and Selected Poems, was named a finalist for the 2020 Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. Her fifth collection, The Book of Men, was awarded the Patterson Prize. Her fourth book of poems, Facts About the Moon, won the Oregon Book Award and was shortlisted for the Lenore Marshall Poetry Prize. Locks is also the author of Awake, What We Carry, a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award, Smoke, as well as a fine small press edition, The Book of Women. She is the co-author of the celebrated text, The Poet's Companion, A Guide to the Pleasures of Writing Poetry. Her latest collection is Life on Earth. Please welcome Dorianne Locks.
Hello, LA. I've read here a couple times before, right? And it's so weird because you can't see anybody. So disconcerting. But anyway, I'm reading this for Cynthia, whose book we're celebrating tonight. She didn't quite request it, but she asked if I was going to read it, because she's going to read a moon poem tonight as well. So this is going to be a little moony for Cynthia. And this poem is from my book titled Facts About the Moon. Facts about the moon, which are all true facts that you yourself can see if you watch the Discovery Channel. The moon is backing away from us 1.5 inches each year. That means if you're like me and were born around 50 years ago, the moon was a full 6 feet closer to the earth. What's a person supposed to do? I feel the gray cloud of consternation travel across my face. I begin thinking about the moonlit past, how if you go back far enough, you can imagine the breathtaking hugeness of the moon. Prehistoric solar eclipses, when the moon covered the sun so completely there was no corona, only a darkness we had no word for. And future eclipses will look like this: the moon, a small black pupil in the eye of the sun. But these are bald facts. What bothers me most is that someday the moon will spiral right out of orbit and all land-based life will die. The moon keeps the oceans from swallowing the shores, keeps the electromagnetic fields in check at the polar ends of the earth. And please don't tell me what I already know, that it won't happen for a long time. I don't care. I'm afraid of what will happen to the moon. Forget us. We don't deserve the moon. Maybe we once did, but not now, after all we've done. These nights I harbor a secret pity for the moon, rolling around alone in space without her milky planet, her only love. A mother who's lost a child, a bad child, a greedy child, or maybe a grown boy who's murdered and raped. A mother can't help it. She loves that boy anyway, and in spite of herself, she misses him. And if you sit beside her on the padded hospital bench outside the door to his room, you can't not take her hand. Listen to her while she weeps, telling you how sweet he was, how blue his eyes. And you know she's only romanticizing, that she's conveniently forgotten the bruises and booze, the stolen car, the day he ripped the phones from the walls. And you want to slap her back to sanity, remind her of the truth. He was a leech, a fuck-up, a little shit. And you almost do, until she lifts her pale, puffy face, her eyes two craters, and then you can't help it either. You know love when you see it. You can feel its lunar strength, its brutal pull. And then I thought I had marked this poem that I was going to also read, which is also about the moon. And maybe it's in my other book. See, I marked it, and then I pulled this thing out, which is where, no, here it is. And it's called Moon Gazelle, or Guzzle. Moon Guzzle. I can't remember the first time I saw it. Seems it was always there, even with me in the womb, the moon. It must have been night, above the ocean, making a path on the waves, gilded invitation, the parchment moon. Or the day moon, see-throughy wafer over desert, caught in the arms of saguaro, thin-skinned, heart-struck moon. Blue as new milk, aquarium water, Mexican tiles, blue as fingertips in the cold, nail beds, quick blue arcs, half moons. How I felt when I saw my first grown boy, round-eyed, all sinew and muscle, his calves, his biceps, plump as moons. Buttons, doorknobs, volleyballs, clocks, egg yolk, orange slice, violet iris, our planet a pupil, a mote in the eye of the moon. The cell inside me, splitting and splitting, worm of the fetus, tadpole, the glazed orb of the eye, my belly taut as the moon. The blue-streaked moon of her head pushing through, moons of the faces above me, urging me, pulling, promising the moon. There are earthquakes on the moon, not geologically dead, still acting like a planet, upheaval, turmoil, shaking her head, the moon. When I see the earth of you, I still feel moonquakes, even now, after so many moons, my round breasts swoon, your fingertips, small moons. And then I thought I would end with the title poem of my new book, my latest book, Life on Earth. Life on Earth. These are also all true facts. I love poems that I can kind of, just follow the facts, ma'am. Kind of, Life on Earth. The odds are we should never have been born, not one of us, not 1 in 400 trillion to be exact. Only one among the 250 million released in a flood of semen that glides like a glassine limousine filled with tadpoles of possible people, one of whom may or may not be you, a being made of water and blood, a creature with eyeballs and limbs that end in fists, a you with all your particular perfumes, the chords of your sinewy legs singing as they form, your organs humming and buzzing with new life, moonbeams lighting up your brain's gray coils, the exquisite hills of your face, the human toy your mother longs for, your father yearns to hold, the unmistakable you who will take your first breath, your first step, bang a copper pot with a wooden spoon, trace the lichen growing on a boulder you climb to see the wild expanse of a field, the one whose heart will yield to the yellow forsythia, named after William Forsythe. Not the American actor with piercing blue eyes, but the Scottish botanist who discovered the buttery bells on a highland hillside, blooming to beat the band, zigzagging down an unknown Scottish slope. And those are only a few of the things you will someday know, slowly chipping away at your ignorance and doubt. You who were born from ashes and will return to ash, when you think you might be through with this body and soul. Look down at an anthill or up at the stars. Remember your gambler chances, the bounty of good luck you were born for.
Dorian Locks, folks, give it up. That was great. Thank you, Dorian. Kim Adonisio is the author of over a dozen books of prose and poetry. Her latest poetry collection is Exit Opera. Her memoir in essays, Bukowski in a Sundress, was published by Penguin. She is the co-author with Dorian Locks of The Poet's Companion. Adonisio's work has been translated into several languages and honored with fellowships from the NEA and Guggenheim Foundation. And her collection, Tell Me, was a finalist for the National Book Award. She lives in Oakland, California, and teaches poetry workshops on Zoom. We are delighted to have her here with us to celebrate Cynthia Good's new work. Please welcome Kim Adonisio.
Oh, it is weird up here. It's very dark out there. Thanks to Beyond Baroque for having us. Thanks, Jimmy, for your work in getting us here. Thanks to United Airlines for finally flying us here. And I'm really happy to be here celebrating Cynthia. Cynthia came to my, I do a writing retreat in Italy every now and then, which I actually have some postcards for. So if you're interested in doing a retreat in Italy this May, we'll be there again. And a few La Ramitans are here tonight. I'm happy to say La Ramita has shown up. And I'm just really happy to celebrate with Cynthia. As soon as she said she had a book coming out, I was like, yeah, I'll come down and celebrate with you. And it morphed into this great reading with Michelle and Dorian. And so really happy to be here. And okay, I'm going to read a few poems from this book, Exit Opera. And this is the title poem. And I think all you need to know, I'm talking about Wagner's Ring Cycle. I'm actually not a fan of opera, but I ended up writing some poems about opera, and this refers to that very long opera, which is all you really need to know about this poem. The shield maiden waits in the wings. The opera goers wait, shifting in their seats. Out in the forest, the ember waits in its cigarette to make its black mark on the world, not content to ravage a few rolled tobacco leaves. It wants to show it can murder more trees than the last bitter fire. In the sequoia grove, in record heat, tourists wait for a chance to stand inside an enormous burn-hollowed tree, while the bark waits the years it takes to grow over the scar. Legions of charred trees, legions of kids clambering over rocks. In the troposphere, the next giant pyrocumulonimbus cloud waits to be born from its gassy parents. Once the opera's begun, you must wait for what feels like eons for Brunhilde to deliver her aria as she throws herself on the funeral pyre and everyone goes up in flames. Once you escape a wildfire, leaving everything behind, a little void appears beneath your heart and lodges in your ribs. Again, you must wait. If you see lightning, listen for the thunder to tell you how far or near you are. When Milton went blind, he felt useless, but then he decided it was okay to stand still, to abide. Look at the trees, who are patient, who suffer us to touch them. And yeah, I wrote that after I did a BBC radio show on the called California Burning, about what was happening to the ancient giant sequoias up north. And so we spent the night in a fire lookout, and that was what came out of that. This is called Existential Voyage. Maybe you'll understand this life when you slam your fist into a cloud. When you're lashed to the mast, listening to the songs of space aliens trying to dash you on the rocks of hermeneutic texts. But probably not. Let's eat too much and drink our faces off. Anything else is a waste of time, although time is also hard to understand, maybe made of quantum bits, but maybe not, flowing or passing, maybe an arrow, maybe a total delusion like believing in griffins or lasting justice for the poor. Paramedes and Heraclitus, forever at war about the nature of reality. Are tensed facts or tenseless facts ontologically fundamental? I don't get it either. More tequila. Hold this lime while I pour salt into my navel. Lick, shoot, suck. Quark, lepton, boson, teeny tiny invisible neutrinos. At least the ancient Greek gods let us see them occasionally. I don't see how anyone can hitch their life to prayer. Who do you think is listening? Maybe a great, glowing, abyssopelagic snail, or the single resident of Menominee, Nebraska. So how, wondered the lonely philosopher, counteract the omnipresent nil? Camus suggested suicide was rational, but to exit thus is forever to have slain the hearts of those you've left behind. Better to enlist in the employ of snowmelt, or slime yourself to a sepal, and transmute the base metals of your anxieties into a rose gold sestina, to remember that neither despair nor a dearth of taxis can last. When the cargo shifts, the boat may list, requiring heavy lifting before it can be righted. When you lose sight of the shore, the sea will take you where you need to go. Some of the questions to consider. Is it better to offer your heart to the wolf or wait for the wolf to tear it out of you? It's hard to know which is worse, the nightmare of approaching tornadoes or waking from the dream your parents were alive in. Enter the ominous music announcing the shark. It's best to disappear into one's work. Better to be ceaselessly drunk, Baudelaire suggested, mentioning other things besides wine, but most people ignored that part because who wants to be drunk on virtue? Misreadings are best. Misunderstandings are also best, but to be misunderstood is not the goal. I don't need drugs, I am drugs, Dali famously said, and drew his wife's face exploding into spheres. What do all these wildflowers mean? Just look, said a famous American painter who, drunk, drove his convertible off the road into a tree and flew headfirst into an oak. We're all afloat in the same solution. Would you like to trade some molecules with me? Better to sketch a few atoms than fire neutrons at them to create a chain reaction. The adult human body contains 7 octillion atoms and 1 picnic table. Is it time to go? Not yet, not yet. Let's meet for an aperitivo. Let's build a pineapple from all this fresh snow. In the Afterlife, this is a poem I wrote after spending a little time in Greece, which is an amazing country. In the afterlife, if you were Greek, you might end up in Elysium, which was like heaven, only with better music, and also sports, if you were tired of lounging in the shade of an olive tree, drinking a flinty Acertico from Santorini, or a Peloponnesian red. But then again, Minos might damn you to dreary Tartarus for murder or robbing a temple. Slaughter in gold, slaughter in many bronze statues. In my religion, which is basically who the fuck knows what happens after we die, and no one can prove anything anyway, I imagine the spirits of some of those Greeks crawling into their marble likenesses to hunker down inside the folds of a stone robe, looking out with their painted eyes until the paint faded, losing their arms and noses, genitalia sheared off, their heads stolen, torsos dazzling and instructing the lyric poets. When my mother was dying and couldn't speak, I sat with her and told her I knew she was in there, listening, and what might have been a tear appeared on her worn old cheek, but really, I had no idea. All I could see was her suffering. In Athens, I saw bodiless pairs of feet, all that was left of whoever they were. Even the gods couldn't keep from disappearing, replaced by racks of cheap souvenir laurel crowns, mati pendants, and brightly decorated phallus keychains. The Greeks believed the dead were kept alive by memory, but my religion said nothing brings them back, and you can't even touch the statues in museums. At the ruined temple of Olympian Zeus, 3 wild parrots crossed the walkway in front of me, all in a row. Like a fallen, green, and living column, I thought, and then thought, no. I wrote this poem as a kind of apology to a student to which I offered a bromide in response to some struggles she was going through. And then I really thought about that, and she hit me with a lot of, vituperative stuff, but she was sort of right and sort of not. Anyway, I just started thinking about, the ways that we respond to people who are struggling. And I wrote this: "This too shall pass." Was no consolation to the woman whose husband was strung out on opioids. Gone to a better place, useless and suspect intel for the couple at their daughter's funeral, though there are better places to be than a freezing church in February, standing before a casket with a princess motif. Some moments can't be eased, and it's no good offering cliches like stale meat to a tiger with a taste for human suffering. When I hear the word miracle, I want to throw up on a platter of deviled eggs. Everything happens for a reason. More good tidings, someone will try to trap in your skull to insert. When fire inhales your house, you don't care what the haiku says about seeing the rising moon. You want an avalanche to bury you. You want to lie down under a slab of snow, dumb as a jarred sideshow embryo. What a circus. The tents dismantled, the trains moving on, always moving, starting slow and gaining speed, taking you where you never wanted to go. So I think I'm going to skip down towards the end of the book here. Therefore, I am nothing. It's probably best not to think too much about my terminally ill cat, or to wonder whether my mentally ill brother is dead or alive right now, which makes me think of my cat again because of Schrodinger's experiment. What was it anyway? Some kind of thought experiment. I remember there was a cat in a box and some poison, but I don't want to think about poison, another bad thing in my head, except that now I am, but at least I don't personally know anyone who was poisoned. Ancient kings and nobles, Hercules and hatters, some enemies of Putin. So I'm feeling okay now. Poison, no anxiety at all. People are waiting in line in Mexico to fill tanks with oxygen for dying abuelas. The Greenland ice sheet is melting faster than a butter stick in a microwave. Australian clownfish can't find the reef. All that noise from humans and their machines. That's how I think of it, humans and their machines. Like I'm not one of them, but I am. And now I have to bring up Descartes, who thought animals had no minds, just mechanical sensations. One more anthropocentrist ruining the picnic for everyone. Can't we all just take off our helmets and be nectar in a be-loud glade? Open the box, don't open the box, ignore the box, the cat knows. And I don't understand Cartesian dualism, but I hate it with a simplistic, uncomprehending hatred, unlike the jaded and cosmopolitan disgust I feel for God. I guess the cat can't know anything if it's already dead, and something went wrong with my brother's brain years ago, and if the earth is having any thoughts, they're probably along the lines of, stop poisoning me. Now I'm wondering whose ashes were scraped from the columbarium along with my mother's. I don't think she's playing tennis with Jesus in heaven. Mostly I try not to think at all anymore. Just stare at the space between words and their meanings and wait for some less monstrous feeling to be born and stumble toward me. And I'm going to end. I'm going to end with the last poem in the book because, you know, there's a lot of darkness in this book, and I always try to leaven it with humor, which happily I have a sense of humor. And, you know, God, what is it? Oscar Wilde probably said something along those lines, like God save us from the literal minded, or God save us from those without a sense of humor. But so, you know, but I felt like I had to engineer some lightness at the end of the book, and this is one of those pieces. But I mean it too. So, by way of a reminder, even though most of your family is underground and your shield is made of cardboard and the backyard is on fire again, it's best to ignore the sirens inviting you to join them and instead befriend an out-of-tune banjo, a broken swing set, a grounded bee you can nurse with sugar water, or a trip to a sunflower. The many synonyms for dark, they have found me also. I assure you, even the leftovers in the fridge have regarded me with suspicion. Which of us is to be eaten next? Not a question to ask a marauding tiger or incel with a bump stock. But to be fair, any question at all is probably a bad idea in the moment, when it's best to find the nearest wormhole. Mostly you just need to keep walking deeper into the desert, breaking your spear on rocks, inscribing a few verses on whatever water you can find, even if it's full of bark scorpions breathing through their exoskeletons. Mostly you need a night out, a new coat, a provider who doesn't drop the call in the middle of a sob, maybe some good weed. After that, it's up to the gods, who can't exactly be counted on if history is any predictor, but that's no reason to lose heart. Look, a stray cat has found the recycling bin of empty tuna cans outside on the porch and wants in. Thank you.
Kim Adonisio, folks, from Oakland. Thank you, Kim. All right. Last but certainly not least, Cynthia Good is an award-winning poet, yes. Journalist and former TV anchor, 4 years recognizable on Atlanta's Evening News. Also a known women's advocate, Cynthia launched 2 women's business magazines, Atlanta Women and the nationally distributed Pink magazine, to advance women at work. Both have won awards for editorial and design. Cynthia is the author of 8 books, including 2 collections of poems, What We Do With Our Hands and In The Thaw of Day, published by Finishing Line Press. With a Poetry MFA from NYU, Cynthia's poems have appeared or are forthcoming in numerous acclaimed journals, including Book of Matches, Chiron Review, Free State Review, Green Hills Literary Lantern, La Presa, Main Street Rag, Open, Journal of Arts and Letters, Silver Birch Press, Terminus Magazine, Tupelo Quarterly, and Waxing and Waning, among others. Cynthia lives in Santa Monica and Mexico with her Havanese dog, Zuni. Please make some noise for Cynthia Good.
Wow, well, you guys are, so nice to see everybody here. How are you? You okay? Okay. You still have more attention in you? That was amazing, those readings. I am just, for me, a pretty new poet, to be in the company of these extraordinary poets is just really amazing. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Dorian and Michelle. Really appreciate it. Kim just said my book kind of came out while we were in Italy together, and she said, I'll fly to LA and I'll help you launch this book. And then she brought her best friends. So feeling very lucky and wonderful to see all of you. I see so many friends here tonight from so many different parts of my life. It's pretty intense. Really love seeing you. And Beyond Baroque, this is a really special place. Definitely, if you get a chance, come back. I'm a member. I hope you'll become one. I'm going to be at the workshop tomorrow, which is going to be awesome. Like Cody, you should totally come to that. Anyway, thank you for being here. So, okay, I'm going to read just a few poems. I will start with a poem. A lot of these were written in Mexico, take place in Mexico. A lot of them have to do with my father, who some of you know. This first one is called My Father's Father. My father kept a sepia-toned photo, he and his father, their fingers intertwined around lines hooked with bleeding fish. My father's chest thrust out, chin up, his shoulders against his father's waist, smiling like the horizon. Both of them quiet and elusive like my father was to me. But he taught me to fish as a girl, like he did with his father, a night watchman. We would leave Long Beach before daybreak, our binoculars scanning open water for the ephemeral swordfish fin or pod of dolphins. This is where he felt closest to his father, gone before I was born. They'd wait, listing in the rocky diesel-scented tuna tower, listening for the zip of the lines, praying for the splash, the yanking of rods, the yelling for the captain to spin the boat around, gaffing the big one, then slamming her down on the deck. The fish arching and gasping in the sun, its body, their victory, something impossible they pulled off together, conquering an expanse of ocean. Masts flying with triangles of tuna, skipjack, and marlin as the sun lost hold. I know what he must have felt as they pulled into harbor. I knew, standing beside him on the bridge, floating in that wordless adrenaline as we trailed into dock, the two of us looking down on the circus of blood and pelicans. You guys don't have to clap between, save it for the... Okay, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and read this one because I was asked to read it. This takes place in Atlanta, not Mexico. It's called Some Drunks. I have heard there are drunks who fall asleep in their clothes, on the couch in the living room, who flirt and slur and smell like gin. I've heard some say, "I'm sorry," in the morning and scuffle down the halls, keeping their fists in their pockets. Some eat all the powdered, sugar-dusted donuts. They want Cartier, and they sing too loud with friends. Some drunks do not shout, "Fuck you," at people they love. I've heard some die or get sober and come home, placing their suitcases back on the upper shelf quietly because you were asleep. But all I know is the morning sun has turned the sky peach, and miles out across the Chattahoochee River, smoke billows from a power plant, drowning this valley in lavender. Okay, here's one. We're going to go back to Mexico, and I have a house in Mexico, and I spend a good bit of time there, and I rent the house out. So this is when I first started doing that. Cabo San Lucas, Independence Day. I've become this odd person, sneaking in and out of my own home, drinking wine with cereal for dinner in a room I built off the garage so I can live here while renting out the house. The rental company said, "Be invisible." I understand invisible, like when I was married, and now I am again, or trying to be. If I saw the renters, I would duck. I eat bananas with milk and raisin bran all day since going to the market would be too noisy. I am forgetting things, the keys, where's my phone, perhaps on account of being so freaked out, preoccupied with hiding. I leave cabinet drawers open slightly to avoid the click. Push apart glass doors like a thief, scold the dog for barking. Her anti-barking collar isn't working. I hear a chair skid across my ceiling. Surely they can hear my faucet. I'm trying not to clang the spoon against the cereal bowl. Wear socks, step lightly, no blow dryer. It's an obsession. Radio volume low, napkin under a wine glass. Careful stacking plates, muffle a sneeze, don't flush, whisper to the dog. And when my chair honks the floor, I picture the renters freezing where they stand, like my life depends on shutting the fuck up, depends on being voiceless, like I was never here, like I'm already gone. We did a lot of fishing, so this one is called The Striped Marlin We Set Free. We trolled fast from harbor to Chileno Bay, looking for dorados, and landed a striped marlin, her satin skin a negligee of streaming gold, indigo, and green, her elegant bill a sword but useless in the struggle. She flailed hard, drumming the hollow fiberglass, heaving her slim self into a corner, torso arching, hammering with all she had. Imagine her surprise as ocean flooded her eyes, a hook ripping into her lip. We felt her in our chairs where we sat watching her stomp and snake her midsection. She thrashed like she knew what we wanted to do to her, battering the only thing she had, banging her body into the boat. I steadied against the pitch and felt her thump the scorching deck, diesel burning our noses. I saw her stunned wide eyes. She pounded like she knew if she lost, we would tear her open. A dull knife slicing a burger, cut like fabric, like she knew we'd carve her into pieces, maybe eat her alive, as my father and I did after catching tuna. Like she knew once dead we'd hoist her up to weigh our trophy, knew we'd laugh and high-five with our grimy, salt-crusted hands, glistening with her scales as they caught the spinning sun. Like she knew we'd hose down the deck, diluting her burgundy, flushing away any sign of her until there'd be no evidence we were ever there. All right, this one, let's see, did I skip one? Oh, okay, this one needs no explanation. It's called The Nature of Monogamy. The bald eagle, the old field mouse, the albatross, the Atlantic puffin who spends times at sea after breeding, these guys lodge together for life. Coyotes never cheat, like gibbons, the seahorse, and lovebirds, but don't believe it about lovebirds. It's true, mine were thrust together, plucked from a Petco, an unsuccessful arranged marriage. They bickered nonstop, like a broken wheel, a squeaky door hinge, tennis shoes on a basketball court. Then one of the birds died. The other lives happily, even today. Unlike titi monkeys, who exhibit signs of distress when away from the other, says Citizens for the Preservation of Wildlife. I can't blame them or fairy tales that I want a prince on his white fucking horse to rescue me from my self-loathing. Geese protect their mates from predators, as do barn owls and swans. The prairie voile, poster child of animal monogamy, stays true even after death, 80% of the time. My friend Arlette said of a divorcee, "Of course she's alone. Who would want her?" But Arlette's husband, I know, is a cheater and a fall-down drunk. 90% of birds and 5% of mammals mate for life. Gray wolves, black vultures, French angelfish, the scarlet macaw, and California condor. During a recent breakup, person X told me, "You are too beautiful to be alone." But all I could think of was how the sandhill crane, the shingleback lizard, and octopus stay true for life. And the beaver too, at least until one dies, then the other moves on. This is also needs no explanation. It's called Voices in My Head While Trying to Sleep Sunday Night. Got to call Dr. W in the morning for a refill. Where's that half Ambien? Up, look for, but don't find half Ambien. Down, need to call N tomorrow. Wonder if she's avoiding me. Need to call V. Is she avoiding me? Up. Check phone messages. Down. Remember not to worry about the outcome, like getting lost tonight, driving home without glasses, under shadows of huge trees, big as mountains, a smattering of moonlight, a tunnel of monsters around. Up. Why is the dog at the bottom of the bed? Down. The bookshelf fits perfectly on the other wall. Got to stop the times while I'm out of town. Up, midnight. Check on D to see if she's still a wreck, like X who gets drunk and sleeps with random men. Up, wonder, am I doing that, but with one random man? Down, got to order vibrator. Up, drag dog closer, growls, crawls to the bottom of the bed. Down, the vibrator my friend recommended is $100. I'm worth it. You can't have the life that's waiting for you if you keep living the life you have. Joseph Campbell said that, I think. I'm a fuck up. I am doing a good job. Up, 2:30 a.m., pull the dog closer. She growls and barks. Apply chapstick. Down. Damn it. Take 5 breaths. Feel stomach first. Up, On the 5th, let air drift out of mouth. Try to imagine God holding me. Remember, step 11, pray only for knowledge of God's will. Try to stop trying. Up, adjust pillow, down, fuck. It's too late to get a good night's sleep. I wish it was morning so I could shut off my fucking brain. Up, wait, I love you, brain. Thank you, brain. Down, the dog is now sleeping against my side. Pink streets, the sky, street lights flicker off, birds quiet the crickets, and the starred darkness climbs under a blanket of growing light. All right, I have 2 more for you. Here's my moon poem. Thank you, Dorian, for reading yours. I love that poem so much. It's so amazing. Mad at the moon. Loitering and bald, pockmarked, ignorant, illiterate, dressed in stones, distant, strange, always alone. 240,000 miles off, no one wants to hang out with the moon. You can't breathe there. Worthless moon, invisible by day, then using someone else's light. Irrelevant and old, there is no point. It just hovers there, no use to anyone. It doesn't sing or take out the trash. It has never read Shakespeare or changed a tire. If I could, I would rip it out of the sky. It only stood there glowering the night my father put metal to his mouth. Silent again, it observed through a window as my mother fell, watching, doing nothing, static and stuck. The moon can't get off its ass, like now, blistering the water with foolish sparks of light. And I have one more, and this is a poem that I wrote during a difficult period of time when I could not think of anything to be grateful for. And you know how people always say, you should be grateful or just write your gratitude list. And I would be like, you can go to hell, because honestly, I couldn't think of anything. And then I started to write about it. And of course, I came up with so many things. And so I wanted to end with this just to let you know how grateful I am to all of you. And I hope you have a good Thanksgiving next week. So. This is called Something to Be Thankful For. Grateful for the long swim to shore that nearly did me in, for the smallest rock on the widest beach, the bite in the center of a peppercorn, filament in a light bulb, the rush of blood in the veins, the echo after the wave, the long hum of a fishing boat on the Pacific, the sensory memory of a basil farm when he opened the car door to leave, the way a leaf still shudders after the wind, how my legs ache while climbing the front steps, for the water that leaks under my front door, flooding the foyer, grateful for the floor, the flood, the rain, the recycled glass bowl that holds the paint, for the brush and sandpaper to repair the damage, grateful for grief, for the pain and reprieve from it, the dulling that time brings, for being tired, for sleep and waking, for the mountains in Baja green after storms and a decade of drought, for the sound a horse makes when she breathes, her knowing, her length, her fragile legs, for the dog who brings me ticks, for the woods, for cheap champagne, for coffee so strong it tastes like a cigarette, for the way the seagull lifts her bill, for the colors that streak her slate gray beak, that today nothing hurts but the cut where my thumbnail meets the skin, for the rare orange blossom in a garden of stumps, grateful for torso and taste buds, for the moonless night, for breaking glass, for the smell of bacon burning, and the wingspan of clouds, how they change from wispy to reptilian every day. Thank you. Thank you. You guys. All right.
Cynthia Good, everyone, In the Thaw of Day. Thank you, Kim, Dorian, Michelle, everyone here. We've got a lot of books in the bookstore for sale, a little reception outside. Thanks for being here. Have a good night.